Good evening, India!
Are you ready?
More runs, consecutive.
Pressure on. Has he got it? Has he got it? He hasn't. Oh, he's burst through the hands of the
Vivo perfect catch of the match. There it is.
This is the Indian Premier League, or the IPL. The IPL was founded just over 16 years ago, in 2008, and now it has become the fastest growing sports league in the world. It is also the second most lucrative sports league, only behind the NFL, and ahead of the NBA, the MLB, and the English Premier League. In order to understand the success of IPL, it's important that we look into the history of the sport. Cricket was first invented in 16th century England and later gained popularity internationally through British colonies in the 17th to the 19th century. It arrived in India during the colonial era, as it did in many other countries. By the 1900s, Indians were starting to take a keen interest in the sport and were building good teams and developing great players. However, at this time, cricket in India was mostly limited to the elite class. In 1911, the All India cricket team was put together, and the Indian fans showed great support for their national team throughout the decades. Many of the Commonwealth countries began to adopt the sport of cricket and started competing against each other. But the sport at the time was mainly dominated and controlled by England, along with South Africa and Australia. Initially, a game of cricket was played over the course of 5 days, and this format was called tests. It may not have been the most thrilling version of the sport, but it was a great test for its participants' endurance and strategy. Understandably, it wasn't easily marketable to the masses and was slowly losing popularity. Empty stadiums during test matches was starting to become a very common sight. To solve this problem, a shorter version of cricket was introduced in 1963. The one-day internationals, or ODIs, would take about 8 hours for a full match, compared to the 5 days it would take for tests. The inaugural Cricket World Cup in 1975 marked a new era for the sport. However, India's unexpected victory in the third World Cup in 1983 completely changed the trajectory of the sport and made India the biggest market for cricket. The players became national heroes and cricket became intertwined with the culture of India. Over the next few decades, the Indian cricket team performed well, but despite being the biggest market for the sport, it failed to capture another World Cup. But this was about to change. In 2007, the inaugural T20 World Cup was held, which was the first major cricket tournament in the 20-over format. Many of the senior players from India chose not to compete in the tournament. At this point, Team India was looking for a new leader, and the reins were handed over to this guy, MS Dhoni. He would go on to become the most successful captain Team India has ever seen. This new format of the sport was initially introduced in 2003 and took only about 3 hours to play, which is comparable to most other sports. This new version promised a lot more action and a more fast-paced gameplay. Now, if you're wondering, here's a quick overview of the rules of cricket. A cricket match is played between two teams of 11 players. Each team takes turns batting and fielding. The batting team aims to score runs by hitting the ball and running between two sets of wickets, while the bowling team tries to dismiss batsmen and limit runs. Batsmen score runs by running between the wickets or hitting the ball to the boundary. They can be dismissed in different ways, including being bowled, caught, or run out. The game is played in overs, with each over consisting of 6 deliveries, or pitches, if you're familiar with baseball. In the T20 version of the sport, each team gets 20 overs. And as fate would have it, the two teams that reached the T20 World Cup finals were also the biggest rivals in the sport, India and Pakistan. And man, it was a nail-biter. Team India batted first and set a target of 157 runs for Pakistan to chase. Now, during the second innings of the game, the momentum shifted quite a few times, and it came down to the very last over. Pakistan needed 13 runs to win, which seemed very doable, but they only had 1 wicket to spare. And then, this happened.
In the air, Srishant takes it! India win! Unbelievable scenes here at the bull ring. Chef Lawson can't believe it. Pakistan.
At this moment, an entire country with a population of over 1 billion people fell in love with this 20-over format of the game. And just a few months later, the first season of the Indian Premier League was launched. It truly was the perfect storm, and it came at the perfect time, when people in India had a huge appetite for more T20 action.
Overall, I think there's great excitement between the players, the community, and the cricket world to look forward to this new product. We think that with 1 billion people in India alone being fans of cricket and loving the cricket being more than a religion across the country, I see no reason why it shouldn't be bigger than the Premiership.
And this was the man behind the Indian Premier League. Lalit Modi at the time was the vice president of BCCI, which is the governing body for the sport of cricket in India. Modi was fascinated by the massively successful sports leagues in the West, like the NBA and the NFL, and he wanted to bring this concept to cricket. IPL was not his first attempt at this. Modi pitched an idea for a 50-over tournament to the BCCI in 1995, but they didn't take this very seriously. But after India's successful World Cup campaign in 2007, it was the perfect time to realize his dream of creating India's very own cricket league. The concept of the Indian Premier League was modeled after other leagues like the NBA and NFL. The idea was to create teams that would represent different countries or regions within the country, and they would play each other in a league-style contest leading to playoffs and eventually the final. As the cricketing world turned its attention to India, the stage was set for the birth of IPL.
Nice shot that. One. Another one. Up in the air. Will it go to third man? Oh, it's gone over.
April 18th, 2008 marked the first night of what was going to become the fastest growing sports league in the world. The night started with a massive opening ceremony that included musicians and some of the biggest Bollywood stars performing for the fans. And after all of this, it was time for the actual game, and man, it delivered. Brandon McCullum, who played for New Zealand's national team, set the stadium on fire that night, and the fans were in awe of what they were watching. You couldn't have scripted a better opening game. It had everything IPL promised to deliver. The Indian Premier League was off to the races. Even outside of the actual sport, the IPL does a great job of making it a spectacle. The structure of the tournament was built to be thrilling, and pitting different cities against each other added another layer to this excitement. This was something that was missing from sports in India. But if you look at the West, there are many great examples of passionate fandoms that go to bat to support their local sports team. The first season of IPL consisted of 8 teams set in India's biggest cities. These teams were auctioned off to some of the biggest business people and movie stars in India. This auction was held in 2008, and these 8 teams were sold for a total of over $700 million. And then team owners got to select players for their roster at the player auctions.
Mitchell Stark from Australia. 13 crore for Gujarat. 1325. 23 crore 75 lakh for KKR. And selling then newest member to the Kolkata team at 24 crore and 75 lakh sold. What a welcome back for Mitchell Stark.
To this day, this entire process is televised and receives a ton of media coverage. And it's a genius move on their part, as it drums up a ton of interest and creates conversation within the fans before the season even starts. At the core of IPL's business are the live events, and they do an amazing job of making the live events memorable and entertaining for their audience. They have taken many elements from other leagues, like the addition of cheerleaders and in-game entertainment. The IPL also has a great knack for telling stories. I believe any sports league, or any sport for that matter, needs personalities and stories to really capture the imagination of fans. Individual teams have also done a great job of building their players up as personalities, and there has been no shortage of players with big personalities in the sport. Some of the biggest names in the IPL have shown tremendous performances in the international scene as well as the IPL. Many of these players have become household names in India and in IPL's international markets, making their personal brands bigger and giving them an opportunity to make millions of dollars from personal sponsorships off the field. Another thing that the IPL has going for it is the popularity of the international games. Unlike soccer and basketball, people don't just care about international games every 4 years during the Olympics or the World Cup. There are many big cricket tournaments every now and then that allow up-and-coming players across the world to garner attention, which leads to anticipation for seeing them in the IPL. Despite concerns that the IPL is feeding on the international cricket market, I believe that the two are in a great position where one feeds into the other. Now for my favorite part, let's look at the numbers and how exactly the business of IPL works. An IPL season lasts for about 2 months, which is much shorter than other popular leagues. Altogether, the teams play a total of only 74 games in a season, which is not a lot of games. For context, an NBA team plays 82 games in a regular season.
Bidding for IPL media rights has finally ended, with IPL gaining 2.5 times more than the last auction in 2017 to make it one of the most successful leagues across the world.
In 2023, IPL's media rights were sold to Viacom and Star Sports for a staggering $6.4 billion for 5 years. This means that each IPL game is valued at $13.4 million. And this makes IPL the second most lucrative sports league in the world behind the NFL. It might be surprising, but a single IPL game generates more money than the English Premier League and the NBA. This revenue is split equally between the teams and the BCCI, which is the governing body for cricket in India. Another major source of revenue for IPL are the sponsors for the events. This includes the title sponsor and additional sponsors that sponsor different aspects of the game. The title sponsor is the sponsor that you see alongside the tournament's name. Some of the sponsors in the past have been companies like Pepsi, DLF, Vivo, and Dream 11. IPL's current title sponsor is Tata, which is one of the biggest conglomerates in India. Tata Group has signed a $300 million deal to be IPL's title sponsor for 5 years. It is also estimated that they're making over $25 million a year from other sponsors, sponsoring things like the Drinks Break, the Man of the Match Award, and so on. Again, these sponsorship deals are split evenly between the teams and the BCCI. Besides these income sources, the individual teams have a few other ways they make money. This includes merchandise sales, ticket sales, and sponsorships. The merchandise sales really come down to the popularity of the individual players and the success of the teams. And the ticket sales are typically not a huge chunk of their revenue and cap at around $600,000 to $700,000 per game. Players in the IPL typically have around 10 different logos on their kit, which are paid sponsorships. And how much money the teams can command from sponsors comes down to the brand value of the team. And obviously, this varies throughout the league. India's massive population is one of the biggest reasons behind the meteoric rise of the IPL. But the league is gaining traction in international markets as well. Cricket in general is growing in popularity, and the IPL is a big part of that growth. India and the IPL team have done an amazing job of putting on entertaining cricket tournaments for the last 16 years and have built a brand worth more than $11 billion. This is nothing short of amazing and is showing no signs of slowing down. Reuters reported that more than 120 million unique viewers tuned in to watch the 2023 IPL final. The average value of an IPL team has also soared from $67 million in 2009 to $1.04 billion in 2023, which makes for a 24% annualized growth. This is much faster than the 10% growth in NFL teams and 16% growth in NBA teams for the same time period. The IPL may seem like the new kid on the block, but they have been doing it for 16 years now and have shown consistent growth and proved that they are here to stay. IPL's growth has made India's BCCI the richest and most influential cricketing body in the world, and it seems like their influence and riches will continue to grow. Also, compared to other leagues, the IPL is really in its infancy. It's only 16 years old. The NFL held its first season in 1920 and the NBA in 1946. This really is just the beginning for the IPL, and I believe that there is lots more to come.